Even after the fires of Mustafar burned away his past, even after Padme's final breath had shattered the last remnants of Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader remained obsessed with the power of Darth Plagueis. The legend of the Sith Lord who could prevent death had been the final temptation that had lured him into the darkness. The last, desperate hope that he had clung to as he betrayed the Jedi, his friends, and himself. But now, encased in his black prison of flesh and machine, he realized that his master had lied. Palpatine had whispered promises of power beyond life, of the ability to control fate itself, and that is when Vader had knelt before him, broken, reborn. But the truth was then laid bare. The power had died with Darth Plagueis, or so Sidious had claimed. There was nothing left to learn, nothing left to share, nothing left to save. Padme was gone. The dark side had given Vader everything but the one thing that he had truly ever wanted. Yet, deep within the cold silence of his meditation chamber, as the mechanical hum of his respirator filled the void, Vader refused to believe that such knowledge had simply been lost. He had seen the extent of his master's deception, had felt the half-truths that twisted around Sidious's every word. Plagueis had discovered something, and Sidious had ensured that that knowledge would never leave his grasp. Why then did Vader allow this? Because now he was bound, his body shattered, his connection to the Force, though immense, was restrained through pain and limitation. The suit, the cybernetics, these were his new chains, binding him in servitude until he could overcome them. His master, he had granted him power, but also measured power, carefully controlled. To oppose him now was to die. But Darth Vader understood the way of the Sith. Power is not given, it is taken. Sidious too had once been an apprentice. He had bided his time, deceived his master, and when the moment was correct, he struck down Plagueis in his sleep. The dark side had demanded betrayal, and Vader knew that this moment for him may one day come. And when that day arrived, he would need more than brute strength to kill his master. Vader would need knowledge. Sidious would never teach him freely. Palpatine feared what Vader might become, and so the Dark Lord of the Sith would have to find the truth all on his own, across the stars. In the depths of the galaxy, he would scour for the forgotten knowledge and the remnants of Darth Plagueis' work. Ancient holocrons, hidden laboratories, records buried beneath layers of deception and dust. Somewhere out there though, the answer still remained. And when he found it, when he unlocked the power that his master withheld from him, Vader would no longer be the apprentice, he would be the master. The legend of Darth Plagueis remained a shadow in Darth Vader's mind, haunting his thoughts even as he pursued his own ambitions. The Sith Lord had manipulated life itself. The Sith Lord had brought the dead back, if only for a brief moment. He had left behind a legacy of knowledge far greater than Sidious had revealed, and Vader knew that if he had to become more than a broken shell, it was to surpass the limitations of his charred flesh, that it would be through the teachings of Plagueis where he would achieve this, reclaim his true legacy. Perhaps unconsciously, Plagueis had already began to shape Vader. His secret apprentice Galen Marek was more than a weapon against the Jedi and the Rebellion. Starkiller had been an experiment, a test of whether a Sith could craft and mold power. Could Vader break down a being, forge him into something greater? But when Starkiller fell, Vader refused to let the experiment end there. He turned to cloning, an unnatural art, something the Kaminoans had perfected, but that the Sith had sought to corrupt. Had Plagueis walked this path as well? Vader searched for answers but found only questions. The cloning of Force sensitives had always been a failure, a disastrous twist, unstable minds. But Darth Plagueis had done more than create copies. Plagueis had revived the dead. He had done this with another Sith Lord, Venomous, a name buried in the deepest corners of Sith history, a rival to Plagueis. Venomous was a Sith that he had struck down only to bring him back. Plagueis forced Venomous to walk the veil between light and dark eternally, or at least until Plagueis grew bored. It was a power beyond cloning. According to what Vader had uncovered, this was pure mastery of the Force. If such a feat had been possible once, it could be possible again. And Vader sought to replicate this, to twist the dark side into a tool of reviving, of preserving the powerful. But Vader would fall short. Plagueis had been ahead of him by lifetimes. But Vader did not understand how far behind he truly was. But Palpatine understood. Sidious had always known the extent of Plagueis' knowledge. It was not some lost relic to him, not some forbidden or buried treasure beneath sands of time. It was now his. Palpatine's to command, Palpatine's to wield, his to lock away if he saw fit. It was passed down from master to apprentice as the birthright of the Dark Lord. Plagueis had been an ambitious fool, believing himself immortal, yet he had died like all before him. Sidious had been wiser. He had taken what was learned and ensured that no one, not even Vader or any other, would wield this power against him. The knowledge of Darth Plagueis was Palpatine's inheritance, and so it remained hidden. But there was more that Plagueis left behind than mere texts. What about his forbidden labs? Deep in the void of the galaxy, scattered across forgotten moons and desolate worlds, the labs of Darth Plagueis still existed, monuments to the Darkside's pursuit of ultimate control. Each was dedicated to a different facet of Sith knowledge, hidden in places where only the most devoted would ever seek the answer. His most prominent lab was the Abora Complex. The heart of Sith alchemy located on Abora, a moon of Baldemnik, was where Plagueis' primary laboratory was held. This is where he conducted some of his most forbidden experiments. The complex had massive life support chambers, there where he prolonged the life of others indefinitely, forcing subjects to remain alive through sheer manipulation of the midichlorians. He also had dark alchemical pools that allowed him to experiment with mutations, attempting to breed Sith spawn that could wield the Force on an instinctual level. Sidious had abandoned this factory though, fearing its secrets may tempt even him. The second was the Venomous Chamber, the Laboratory of Resurrection. Hidden beneath the surface of the world of Sojourn, this lab is where Plagueis would attempt to master the revival of the dead. Here he had performed his greatest experiment, killing Venomous only to resurrect him over and over again, testing the limits of the dark side. Sith rituals and force-binding chambers lined the underground halls, designed to suspend life and reawaken the dead. Darth Vader had no knowledge of this place. Sidious had ensured it. But this isn't the end. Plagueis also controlled the genetic vaults on the world of Moonalist. Within the banking world of Moonalist, Plagueis had established an entire network of genetic testing facilities, doing so under the guise of corporate research. These labs stored thousands of altered DNA samples, including Sith hybrids and artificially enhanced life forms. The project aimed to grow Force-sensitive beings directly, bypassing the random nature of genetic inheritance. Sidious shut down the facility, ensuring no one would discover the secrets that Plagueis had uncovered. And then you have Plagueis' cloning sanctum on Hypori, one of Plagueis' last projects. This hidden station studied the interaction between cloning and the Force itself. Plagueis' goal was to create a fully stable cloned Sith Lord, perfect warriors infused with Darkseid mastery, their training already completed. The research itself, though appropriately, was not completed, as Plagueis died before achieving success. But this would be one of the labs that Sidious would not destroy. He would build upon it, using it as a basis for future Sith cloning experiments, including those that would eventually lead to his own resurrection on the world of Biss in his own cloned bodies. And now we reach the Lost Chamber of Biss. Though not a creation of Plagueis, the vault on Biss was now the chamber of his secrets. Within the Emperor's Citadel lay holocrons, alchemical tools, Sith texts directly written from the hand of Plagueis, work where it would be stored away, never to be seen by anyone but Sidious. The Jedi never learned of this location, and neither did Vader. It would only be after the world of Biss itself was destroyed, where the remnants of Plagueis' research would vanish forever. Plagueis had not merely studied the dark side, he had sought to replace it with his own will, to become its master, to make the dark side bow. He had come closer to this goal than any Sith before, and for that, he had been erased. Sidious had claimed his title, his knowledge, and all of his power. But Vader was strong, but he was not ready. Palpatine watched him carefully, allowing him to struggle, to search, and to fail. The Sith had long understood the value of allowing an apprentice to crave power but never fully achieve it. If Vader discovered too much, if he came too close to grasping the power that his master already owned, he would meet the same fate that Plagueis did. And yet, Vader refused to stop searching. Deep within the fortress of his own mind, beyond the pain of his existence, Vader knew the answer was still out there, buried in forgotten holocrons, hidden in long-abandoned temples, encrypted in the archives of the old moon laboratories. Somewhere the knowledge of Darth Plagueis lived, and when he found it, Vader would finally kill Sidious. No longer bound by cybernetic chains, no longer the servant. Only then would he fulfill his destiny and reclaim what was stolen. Had Vader possessed the full knowledge of Plagueis, the understanding of midichlorian manipulation, the resurrection of the dead, the creation of life itself, what would he have become? Not just a warlord, not a tool for an empire, but a true darkness. Imagine a Vader unshackled by pain, his body restored, crude cybernetics thrown away through the power of the Force. He could walk unscathed through battle. Every breath was no longer a reminder of his failures, but a declaration of his dominance. He would need no cloning, no endless apprentices. Vader would become the Sith Lord that Plagueis had once desired, limitless, becoming the one vision that Palpatine had feared the most. This was the reason Sidious ensured that this could never happen. This was the great truth of the Sith doctrine under Palpatine's rule. He had changed it. The Order no longer existed to cultivate the most powerful. The Sith were no longer a cycle of master and apprentice. Palpatine had transformed the Sith into a monument to one man. He had changed the Sith not into a system of ascension, but into a religion of himself. All of Plagueis' knowledge and Sith teachings, they were all his, and his alone. He had not destroyed the Sith of old to replace them with something stronger. Palpatine hoarded their power, ensuring that no one, especially Vader, could rise beyond him. For all of Vader's strength, he had been cast as the ultimate enforcer, the perfect hammer in Palpatine's hand. But a hammer does not think, nor does it rule. It strikes where it is told to strike. It does not ask questions. And yet, Sidious knew that his creation, his broken chosen one, was incomplete. It is my theory that in secret, Palpatine continued to work on Darth Plagueis' advancements, delving into the very knowledge that he denied Vader, not to share, not to strengthen his apprentice, but to one day fix him. But not as an act of mercy, not as a gift, as a means to perfect his own dominion though. Palpatine, ever the strategist, may have understood that Vader's potential remained forever chained to his now ruined body. But the day would come, centuries later perhaps, when Palpatine would no longer be bound by flesh, when he would use essence transfer to leave his failing form and to claim a new one. And what better vessel than a perfected Lord Vader? If Sidious could one day restore Darth Vader's body, if he could mend his flesh, return his strength, then he could inherit the vessel for himself. Discarding the weakness of his old existence, he would control the might of a twisted chosen one. Perhaps this was the true, unspoken tragedy of Lord Vader. Cattle. He had been built as a Sith Lord, kept ignorant of his own legacy. He had been made strong, yet deliberately weakened. For the Sith were no longer meant to serve themselves. They were now only meant to serve one man. And so, as Vader raged in solitude, as he searched for answers in the ruins of the Sith that he would never find, the knowledge he sought, the power he needed, the means to heal, the means to rise, the means to take the throne, it had always been there, but it had never been meant for him. It had only ever belonged to Darth Sidious.